on this glorious day, welcome back to Everyday Ordinary Life with Mark. I'm so glad you join me each time. Please continue to do so. Tell friends about it. It's a wonderful time to just investigate some of those things in life that are everyday ordinary, those things in life that need not be missed. I think we miss a lot in life when we don't focus on those things that are just part of our days that go in and out, and they can be missed. One of those things that can be missed is thankfulness. Now, let me tell you about thankfulness. If you look around our world and you look at people who are healthy, and when I say healthy, I mean emotionally healthy, spiritually healthy, physically healthy for that matter, most of those people are thankful people. Now, that's not to say all thankful people are in perfect shape and have perfect attitudes, but thankfulness is something that is very impactful, not just to those who receive it, but also to those who give it. Because thankfulness does something to our hearts, to our souls, to our minds. It helps us love the Lord our God with all that. It helps us love our neighbor. It helps us do these things that God has called us to do. So this week and next week, during this vlog timing, I'm going to be talking about thankfulness. Next week, we're going to talk about specific things for which we can thank God and all the different ways we can do that in our life. But this week, I want to talk more about just one particular subject for which I am thankful, and I'm sure you're thankful. And I want to talk about ways that we can give God thanks for this. Now, if you were to open these blinds behind me, you would look at the Chugach Mountains here in Anchorage, Alaska. Just wonderful mountains. Now, just the other week, my wife and my kids and I went camping. We were up in the Denali area on the Parks Highway, and we went up on a ridge, and we could just get a glimpse of Denali, not quite the peak. Many of you know that it creates its own weather, so even on a beautiful day, you can't see the peak sometimes. And what I was just really overwhelmed with at the time was just the magnitude of the range. I believe it's the Alaska Range, and it is all through there. And we just focus on this one mountain, this Denali Mountain, and this is an amazing, tallest mountain in North America. But because we focus on that, we miss the beauty of all the other mountains, glaciers, and wonderful textures that God has placed there. And it's amazing to me. I grew up in Texas, and there's beauty there. I remember the lakes and the sunrises and the sunsets. I've traveled to a lot of places in the United States and globally, and I'll never forget these wonderful sights that I've seen of just lush colors and beautiful environment. I remember being in Kenya and seeing the great expanse and the multiple animals. I remember doing some of my writing in my book, and there's literally monkeys in the trees dancing around me as I'm doing so. I remember scuba diving off of Samoa and just seeing some beautiful things under there. Also some trash, by the way, from the tsunami. But even in that, there was wonderful beauty. And you've had experiences like this where you've seen the beauty of God. I want to talk to you about how do you actually take that and make it a subject for thankfulness. How do you actually engage God with thankfulness? Well, let me tell you how to do that in nature. And when I say in nature, I don't mean that God is in nature in the sense that we can find God somehow in his substance in nature. That's not what Scripture teaches. What we can understand is Scripture teaches that God created nature, so we can see his handiwork in nature, but we're not going to find God in nature, and that's a fine line. And if you want to know more about that, reach out to me. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. But let me make sure you understand what the Genesis story is all about. Genesis 1 is this awesome story, very first introduction of Scripture of God to us. And it says God chose to create, and has this discussion and says, let us create. And he creates light, and he creates moon and stars and animals and bugs and things that crawl, things that walk, things that fly. And then he creates human beings, and he looks upon all of it and says, this is good. Kind of a righteous wonder of look at how amazing this creation is. He's not bragging, he's just saying what the facts are. This is beautiful, and you're part of that beautiful creation. Well, when God does that, we find that he does many more things. He created in the sense of started things, but he continues to create and sustain. And I want to share with you one of the verses that really means a lot to me. This comes out of Psalm 111. I'm going to read verse 2 and into verse 3 a little bit. It says, God's works are so great, worth a lifetime of study, endless enjoyment. Splendor and beauty mark his craft. His generosity never gives out. You ever think of God as a generous God whose splendor and beauty mark his craft? Splendor and beauty mark his craft, and it's worth a lifetime of study, and not just study, but endless enjoyment. I encourage you to get out there and enjoy what God has done. Let me tell you 3 ways you can do that. First way, get out someplace beautiful and voice thanksgiving to God for it. Literally say out loud, God, thank you for this beauty. It will change your perspective. Maybe you don't want to talk out loud, speak really quietly, whatever you want to do, but just get out there and say to God, thank you for what you have done. Second thing I'd like you to do is to look at the glory of what God has done and share it with someone. Particularly if you're a parent, as we talked about last week, talk to your kids about God did that, God made that, and talk to them about that. Make sure they understand how much they can see God's handiwork as you teach them to do so. And if it's a friend, they don't need to be taught that, but just reminded, hey, can you imagine as we're hiking that God made this? The last thing I encourage you to do as you look at nature and thank God for it is to use that as a place of worship, to spend time in prayer, spend time singing if you like to sing, spend time just expressing words of thanks, but use it as an actual time of worship. So let's begin being thankful by getting out in this beautiful place, wherever that may be for you. For me, it's right here in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm going to thank God for it, and I'm going to do that with others, and I encourage you to do the same. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.